Spain has a meager contribution to NATO, and as a consequence, it could face 100% tariffs from the US, according to President Donald Trump, who unfortunately confused it with a BRICS country. When a journalist asked what would happen to NATO countries that do not meet the 2% spending target, Trump replied that Spain's contribution is very low.
Spain is very low. And yet, aren't they a BRICS nation?
He continued that if the BRICS nations want to miss the target, they can, but the US will impose at least a 100% tariff on business they do with the United States.
And if the BRICS nations want to do that, that's okay, but we're going to put at least a 100% tariff on the business they do with the United States.
Evidently confusing Spain for a member of BRICS, which includes Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and 5 other nations, and despite being corrected by a journalist, he reiterated that tariffs were on the cards. Observers later reported that Trump had likely thought the S for South Africa was an S for Spain. It also appears he thought BRICS countries were linked to NATO. A high-ranking EU official told reporters that their main fear is that Trump does not understand Europe and how it works. They are concerned that this lack of understanding will require them to explain everything to him to prevent him from making decisions without realizing the consequences. Spain does not meet the 2% of GDP spending on defense, let alone the 4% demanded by Trump. It spends the least out of all 32 NATO members at just 1.28% of the GDP. Some 23 other members have reached the 2% mark, with Poland on top with a target of 4.7% this year. Meanwhile, Spanish Defense Minister Margarita Robles, PSOE, recalled on Tuesday that Spain is a serious, reliable, responsible and committed ally of NATO, with over 3,800 military personnel on peacekeeping missions and a presence in Latvia, Slovakia, Romania and Turkey. A government spokesperson also quickly downplayed the BRICS mistake, stating that Spain is not part of the BRICS and is not an emerging country. Avoiding direct criticism of Trump, they continued that the US is a reliable partner and stressed that Madrid will seek to maintain good ties with the new administration. But the junior coalition partner Sumar was not so measured, with Labour Minister Yolanda Diaz calling Trump dangerous and sounding the alarm over his strategy to annihilate the entire European space. The challenge today must be more Europe, more democracy, more human rights and firm action against digital and technological monopolies, the minister added. The BRICS was created as a counterbalance to the G7 bloc and includes Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates, which altogether represent around half of the world's population. Critics say the BRICS has anti-Western and anti-American objectives due to several initiatives that counter those put forward by the G7, the EU, and the US. Among other initiatives, the BRICS group of countries is considering creating an alternative currency to the dollar to counterbalance the US and Chinese giants. Donald Trump has sniffed trouble brewing afar against the United States, one that may topple the US's position as a dominant global power and end Washington's ability to impose economic sanctions against those it deems fit for the case. The storm in question is the steadily expanding BRICS Plus grouping. Within hours of taking office as President of the United States, Donald Trump went after the BRICS Plus, threatening to impose 100% tariffs on member countries. The reason Washington feels threatened by the grouping is because it makes the US dollar America's greatest weapon, one it can actually use, vulnerable. In recent times, there have been reports of a possibility of the BRICS Plus nations working on a common currency which would replace the US dollar for international trade. The founding members of the BRICS are Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, the acronym of which is BRICS. Over the years, several other countries have become members of the bloc, namely Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, the United Arab Emirates, UAE, and Indonesia. Saudi Arabia has accepted the membership but has not formally joined yet, saying that the matter is under consideration. BRICS Plus, which is shaping up to be the developing world's alternative to the West-led G7, has set up its own financial structure and institutions and is cooperating economically and diplomatically to reduce its dependence on the US dollar, the default currency for international trade. Donald Trump has now said his administration will impose 100% tariffs against countries of the BRICS Plus bloc, should they take any steps to replace the US dollar. If the BRICS nations want to do that, replace the US dollar, that's okay. But we're going to put at least a 100% tariff on the business they do with the United States, President Trump told the international media shortly after his presidential inauguration. They will have a 100% tariff if they so much as even think about reducing the use of the US dollar in global trade, he threatened. Less than a month before he took office, Mr. Trump had made a similar reference warning the BRICS Plus countries. We require a commitment from these countries that they will neither create a new BRICS currency nor back any other currency to replace the mighty US dollar, or they will face 100% tariffs and should expect to say goodbye to selling into the wonderful US economy Donald Trump, then President-elect, had warned in December. Endeavor to hit the like button, share and subscribe to our channel so that we can continue to bring you wonderful analysis in the business word, geopolitics and many more. The global rise of BRICS to undermine the strength of the dollar in international trade did not come in isolation or without a trigger. US indiscriminate sanctions targeting perceived global competitors is another catalyst for BRICS action to steer smoothly against the harsh dollar-denominated international transactions. The US dollar has for decades been the world's principal reserve currency. It has been the case since the Second World War, following which global institutions like the United Nations, World Bank and International Monetary Fund, among many others, were set up. All these institutions were set up in the United States, and America, being the largest trading country of the world, at that time led to US dollar becoming the default currency for global trade. In 1973, a new system was set up to moderate international transactions. This system is known as SWIFT, which is short for Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. Since then, this has become the world's commonly accepted and standardized model for international money transfers. According to its website, SWIFT is a member-owned cooperative connecting more than 11,000 banks, financial institutions, and corporations in more than 200 countries and territories. SWIFT is neither a payment nor a settlement system, and is therefore not regulated as such by any of the world's central banks. SWIFT is overseen by the central banks of G10 nations, namely Belgium, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the Netherlands, United Kingdom, United States, Switzerland, and Sweden. Since the US dollar is the default currency of trade globally, and SWIFT is the method or channel of settlement, sanctions are imposed by controlling these two. Sanctions are imposed via SWIFT by restricting access to the network or completely prohibiting individuals, institutions, and countries from using its services. When sanctions are imposed, it completely freezes an account and restricts any further transactions from it. SWIFT sanctions can freeze any bank's ability to transact with the rest of the world. Under an international rules-based order, much of the global financial governance is dominated by the US-led West. In recent years, under China's leadership, a call for a multipolar world, a world where there is a great distribution of power held between more than two states, has emerged as a political movement where BRICS Plus members invite other countries to participate in an initiative that can benefit development goals. See, for example, Chinese investments in infrastructure all over the global south and their impact on the development of such countries. This expansionist effort to widen collaboration between states was made explicit through China's BRICS Plus initiative when they hosted the 2017 summit. Notably, at the 2023 summit held in South Africa and the 2024 summit held in Russia, invitations to join the BRICS organization were collectively offered to 19 countries, with the aforementioned 6 states so far taking up membership. Many middle powers see the open doors policy of BRICS as a great opportunity. The collective group has also portrayed the US as the declining hegemony, giving further credence to the problems of the liberal international order and the ability to engage in new economic governance beyond the hegemony of the US. However, the BRICS Plus process also triggers an expansion dilemma, meaning that there are unresolved questions on the nature of the BRICS as an institutional format, the identity of BRICS, and its role as the nucleus of the global south. In this sense, such an initiative has the potential to establish distinct regional platforms in the areas of trade and investment cooperation, particularly on cooperation in technology and innovation, bringing more significant challenges for established powers such as the US and the UK for a global solution for global problems. The process of BRICS expansion thus accelerates the multicentric and local characteristics of the international system and the return of bloc politics in the face of a changing geopolitical context. Such movement in this direction occurs under the leadership of China with the relative consensus of the other 4 members and can be problematic to the liberal international order, LIO, and the norms related to it, once such group are not fully supporters of the LIO. The BRICS Plus can be seen to be moving from a condition of minilateral political formation to complex multilateralization, interconnected both with other initiatives of the multicentric international system such as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, Eurasian Economic Union, EEU, the China Forum's policy, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, AIIB, and the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, as well as with institutions and processes of regional cooperation around which BRICS member countries orbit. This presents a complex overlap between bilateralism, minilateralism, and multilateralism in a current multicentric system, which could result in a profound transformation of the international order and/or in the coexistence of several international orders simultaneously. Hence, BRICS Plus expansion can be seen as a crucial aspect and symptom of the reckless Western global dominance in trade and politics. In the 21st century, with the rise of Asia and economies like China, India, Russia, Indonesia, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and others, the world has become much more multipolar instead of being bipolar, which was the case during the Cold War between the US and USSR through much of the 20th century, post the 2 world wars in the first half of the century. Brazil in South America and South Africa in Africa were also rising global economies. With time, emerging economies became increasingly disgruntled with the dominance of the US dollar being the default in almost all global transactions. This also kept them under a constant threat of Western sanctions should they not toe the line. To deal with this, BRICS leaders have for long reportedly advocated for de-dollarization and been in favor of increased trade in local currencies and even reportedly explored the possibility of a potential common BRICS currency. The BRICS members have even set up the New Development Bank, NDB, and the Contingent Reserve Arrangement, or CRA, which act and function exactly like the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, respectively. The so far 10-member BRICS Plus grouping already comprises nearly half of the world's population and over a third of the global economy. It also has more than 25% of the world's landmass, produces more than 30% of the world's oil output, and is on track to surge ahead of the G7 economies in less than 20 years.